Okay, so we're live. Good morning, everyone, and welcome at the first session for the Brown Track. My name's Wim. I'll be your track host for today. And before I introduce today's speaker, I would kindly like to invite you to put all your questions in the Q&A section so that we can go over them at the end of the session. Our speaker for today's first session is Szilard. And I'm not saying anything more because he will introduce himself, but I am allowed to say that he's a DevOps transformation lead at Efficode, and he will be talking us about how testing will be evolving in DevOps. Szilard, good luck.
Thank you very much, Wim, and hello everyone. So this is Szilard Szell. I'm a Hungarian living in Finland now, and I would like to share with you my experience on DevOps, testing in DevOps, and actually how I have seen testing is evolving when you are moving into the DevOps way of working, and actually how you should evolve yourself when you are moving or being a tester in the DevOps area. This is a bit of an experience sharing, and I would like to, talk about what I have seen, what I have learned, and how I structure that in a view that I hope will be useful also for you. Today, what we will talk about is a bit of intro, and then talking about DevOps at very high level, just to get you on the same point in this early morning, and then talking through the three ways and how testing fits in, then a bit going through the testing, how it is evolving in DevOps, and how should you evolve in there, and a bit of a sum up. But before starting our talk, I would like to ask your help to tell me what testing in DevOps means for you now. Please go with your mobile phone or on your browser to menti.com and use this code to give me 3 words about what testing means for you. Just 3 words. 3 words. So I keep the code on the slide while I'm introducing our company and myself, and please, in the meantime, make your votes. So I work for Efficode, and I actually moved to this company 2 years ago. Efficode is working on DevOps. We are building the future of software development, the future of software. DevOps and cloud transformation is one of the areas we work with. There's also a platform, a DevOps platform, a tool platform that is called Root. There's a lot of digital service development as well, service design, and a lot of work with Atlassian. We are Platinum Atlassian partners as well. We serve our clients in 7 countries and all over the world, actually, almost. Now, before I got to Efficode, I actually worked long 19 years for Nokia. Why I'm saying long? Because sometimes it feels that it was way too much. But actually within that, I was able to move a lot around and having different roles, different positions, almost always focusing on testing, and if not testing, then process improvement, and lately moving to become a safe, scaled agile SPC, teaching safe, and working, in the organization to introduce safe. Also moving to DevOps Center of Excellence, helping the organization there. I gathered a lot of quality management and quality-related experience and knowledge in there, Lean Six Sigma and other things. You know what? I'm a bit of a collector. I'm collecting Lego, but I'm also collecting certificates. I believe that you should know the methodology and the theory behind your work to know the profession, to be able to deliver well in that. Also, giving back to the testing profession, I'm a volunteer in ISTQB. I was the president of the Hungarian testing board. And I'm also working on conferences, not only speaking, but as an organizer. This year, I'm member of the Eurostar 2021 program committee as well. And of course, I'm being tested in life as well. So I'm a father, a proud father of a 12 years old teenager. So I think you know what that means. It's a challenging life. Now, let us see what answers did you give to me? What testing in DevOps means for you now? All right, automation is the biggest one. No surprise there. I suppose everyone says immediately automation, test automation. I like the word continuous. Yes, it's a much more continuous work nowadays. It is more about how we can work in a cadence, in a frequent way of working, right? Speed, automatization, conveyor, oh, quick, Majeka, I like that, whatever it means. Shift left, integration, security, easier, efficiency, productive, rush. Okay. So a lot of words here that represents your knowledge on testing now. Very good. I will capture this and make it part of the slide deck when I'm delivering the PDF. Good. So we have some understanding on testing, but let us see how this should evolve, this understanding. So a bit of refresher first on what is DevOps. So I think we all know the chronic conflict, right? We are testers, and I think majority of us who are on these conferences are testers, and we know this kind of wall in the middle. This wall was always there, or at least in the beginning, in the old good days, development versus testers. There was a wall, right? Now, recently, or in the last 20 years, actually, with the agile movement, testers were moved into the development, which is great. This is now a cross-functional team working together, but the wall has been moved towards ops, between development and operations. Development does provide the code, and they might not care how it is being operated. So DevOps is actually breaking down this wall of confusion, breaking down this wall between development, who is incentivized for change, more and more frequent change, and between the operation, who is actually focusing on stability. No change, if you ask them. How these two words could be put together? Well, that's the promise of DevOps, right? Oh, you just put two things on top and everything is fine. The delivery flow in the middle is the one which is actually helping the pipeline, the flow, the activities are helping there to achieve the DevOps way of working, to achieve the fact that Ops and Dev can work together. And of course, testers are part of it. But do we need to say what is part of DevOps? Is it DevBizOps? Is it DevSecOps? Is it Dev Management Ops? Is it DevQAOps or DevTestOps? No, it's DevOps, okay? Everything is included. In DevOps, everybody needs to be involved and included. Now, let's talk a bit about the 3 ways in DevOps. And this is from the DevOps guide, DevOps handbook. And I just want to share what are the 3 ways of DevOps. That's more a culture, that's more of a concept that we need to, follow when we talk about DevOps. The 3 ways. The first one is the principle of flow. The principle of value flowing from the business through development to operations and to the end user. Now, how can we improve the flow? How can we make it faster and more smooth, especially if we are in testing? So first of all, the lean mindset is very much helping us to understand value stream mapping, value stream management is a knowledge and area that helps us to understand how to improve, how to optimize our flow, how to optimize, the process, how to remove waste. And as a tester, what could be waste? Too many faults is a waste. A development stage, leaving in too many uncertainty and too many faults again, for the next stage to eat it is waste. requirements that are not agreed or understood or well described is a waste, because they cause rework, right? Long testing times might be seen as waste. So test automation, shift left, is helping, for the principle of flow. A lot of techniques here are helping with the flow. Now, the second way is the principle of feedback. Amplifying feedback from all points of the organization, learning from the customer, understanding what happened, understanding, if the things are good, and in two ways, right? Is it the good thing we developed, and did we develop it good? So are we following the requirements, and are we actually solving the client problem? Feedback should come, and think of that. Testing gives feedback, right? But many times when I talk to people in testing, they say, oh, yeah, we wrote the ticket, so there's a full ticket. So that's our feedback. No, anything that you can say about quality or about understanding, about kind of anything that helps to be faster and not to make mistakes is a good feedback. Quality engineer or quality assurance people in the DevOps area needs to speak up even more, and need to be not shy, and need to be able to talk to any level. Feedback is extremely important, and we need to amplify feedback from testing as well. And now the third way is the continual learning and experimentation. Now, all feedback should result in actions, right? And when we do actions, we make things better. That means we are learning as an organization. We are learning new ways. But learning new ways and experimenting, to try out things also needs failing. Sometimes you just fail in that. And actually that whole thing needs a different culture. The psychological safety, the culture of psychological safety, that you can fail. Now, how testers can introduce failure? How about chaos engineering? How about bug hunting? How about exploratory testing? How about involving everyone in that and exploring and learning together? So these are just some of the testing techniques that I believe are very nicely fitting into the 3 ways. And these are that we need to understand in DevOps, how can we contribute to the basics. Now, if we go on and I show you the one DevOps view, this is from Tricentis, which is a company working on a lot of continuous testing and automation. They changed a bit the DevOps view, that instead of test as one phase, we have continuous test. This is nice. This is good. This is showing some of the aspects of testing, but for me, not enough, because as said, testing is rather everywhere. So I like much more how Dan Ashby captured this, that we test in plan phase, in branching, in coding, we merging, building, releasing, deploying, operating, monitoring. We test everywhere, right? Now, how do we do that? And that's where I would like to go next. So how testing can fit into this into this flow, and how do we do that? So let me open up the infinity loop, and let us look into the value stream, the development value stream, which starts with planning, coding, building, testing. Now I changed a bit here from the one that was previously, because I believe that first we deploy and only then release. Deploy is technical, release is more marketing question. And of course, then we operate and monitor the system, how it works. So when I say testing in the value stream, it's easy to spot it, right? It's here. But there is also shift left, right? And we know all about that. Shift left has been there for, again, decades, nothing new. But there's shift right as well. shift right, shifting, testing, and feedback generation to the right. Many times we say shift left is extremely important. We need to do all the testing earlier. But think of that. We want to amplify feedback. Sometimes the feedback can come only from the client, only from operations. We need to see how the software could be deployed, how it could be released, how it could be operated, how it could be monitored. We need to see that before everything is perfect and working. So we actually need to start deploying and seeing how it works. And testing need to be involved in this and prepared. So there is shift left, there is shift right, but I would say there is even more to the left to go, and there's even more on the right to go. So let us deep dive a bit into the different techniques what we have. So first of all, we learned from Tricentis that there is continuous testing. It might be not their word, but that's where I've seen it first. Continuous testing. So how do we do that? This is a lot of automation, right? A lot of repetitive testing. This needs stable automation systems. This might even need AI to give us feedback as fast as possible. But still, this is kind of the normal testing that we have done in the previous era as well. This is just speeding up the normal testing. Now, how would we do that? Of course, keyword-driven test automation helps us a lot, and I will connect that to the left pretty obviously. But keyword-driven test automation, for example, with robot framework, is extremely useful. Of course, any other tool as well. Robot framework is kind of the de facto, at least in the Nordics. Yeah. Now, never forget that even we want to have continuous testing and automation and a lot of things there, never forget what I say, because I say, and many others as well, that you do automation so you have more time for exploratory testing. Do automation to have more time for exploratory testing and bug hunting. Individually, in pairs, and bug hunting in teams. By the way, DevOps is a culture game. You need to build teams. There is almost no better way to build teams than doing a big bug hunting with everyone involved, marketing, business, and then just destroy the software together. I'm sorry, I'm a bit of, creatively destructive guy, and I like that when we can destroy things. Last on this point, do not forget that continuous non-functional testing is also extremely important. Not only focus on the functional aspect, but focus on more the non-functional aspect as well. And this is in nowadays security, right? DevSecOps, as you see many areas, security, reliability, performance. But there's a new ability that we need to learn, and this is the observability. We need to test the functionality that will be used later in the monitoring phase. Monitoring, observing the system, telemetry of the system. Can you learn how the system behaves? So I believe that's also important to understand that there is new aspects in the non-functional area that you need to test. Now, moving to the left, what we testers need to learn, for example, CI/CD pipeline design, and during our talk, and actually on Tuesday on the workshop, I worked with the team and playing around with the pipeline game. It's a card game that helps you understand CI/CD. Also, I think it was GoCD that I found the best kind of e-learning material to teach the concepts of CI and CD, more like independent of the tooling. I don't want to say which tool is better. I want to say that from where you as a tester can evolve yourself and learn these techniques. Now, why is it important to know CI and CD design? Because you as quality engineer or quality assurance lead or QA or tester, should actually help the team to embed the quality assurance steps into the pipeline. So it's good that you also understand how to capture the value stream in the pipeline. Now, of course, when we talk about shift left, it's important to utilize the test-driven development and unit testing, code analysis tools, different lint. And of course, when we talk about security and shift left, we are focusing, for example, on static application security testing, which is kind of getting to be a de facto. And there's a lot of tools there that are helping you in that area. There's a lot of tools that has knowledge in the background about, for example, security vulnerabilities in your code. So it can tell you up early what could go wrong, right? Which is again important. Now I mentioned the CI/CD as an area. Yes, sorry. I mentioned the CI/CD game. This card game has been digitalized, so anyone can play with the team and you can actually come. There is an application for that, absolutely free, and just look into that and learn. Now, when we talk about the shift right part, how testing is evolved or involved in that. We talk about deployment here and deployment automation, right? We need to understand as a test engineer and QA person, what are the different deployment strategies? What are the different risks in there? Is it a red-black? Is it a blue-green deployment? Are we having canary release, canary deployment? Do we have dark launch? A lot of different things that helps us to reduce overall risk of deploying into production. And this is also require testers to actually help the developers to build robust deployment strategies and robust deployment activities. Think of a checklist. Think of your capability of thinking about risks, risk assessment, failure mode, and effect analysis are techniques that we know, and those techniques could be utilized also when we are focusing on deployment automation. Now, acceptance test and standardized staging is also important in here because we want to test in a production-like environment, which is actually deployed the same way and into the same place actually as the production, utilizing as much production-like scripts and everything as possible. In cloud, this could be extremely easy. The platform might give us all the tools. In other areas, this might be much harder. With the standardized staging and acceptance testing, I want to refer back to the keyword-driven world as well, right? If we have good keyword-driven tests done, and we have the automation, for example, with robot framework or any other frameworks, it's easy to run acceptance testing in staging. But remember that acceptance testing is not all the testing, right? We had exploratory testing. We can go much deeper in different areas, and we need to do shift left as well. Now, chaos engineering, I told you we can experiment here, and we want to break the system, or at least I love that. Now, what if we build that into the process? Many times, and again, back in my telco background, I heard we need an extremely stable platform. But you have cloud, and cloud is not extremely stable. It is very stable, but it's not like 5.9 availability. So what? There are techniques and there are features to work with this. There are architecture, microservice architecture, and other thinking and other, how to say, way of working, way of development to overcome this. But how do you know your product is ready for that? You start killing the underlying layer. Probably you heard about the Chaos Monkey and the Simian Army. Those are chaos engineering tools that you can utilize to kill some layers in your cloud and in your product. I have seen and had discussions with operation people who said, no way you do that in production, never ever. And you know what? If you don't do that on purpose, it will happen by chance. So it's better to be prepared and actually better to do chaos engineering, even in production. Right, and I mentioned canary release and dark launches. So these are also techniques where you can, with the canary release your software onto a very small amount of your end user. It might be even your colleagues. Just why is that? To reduce the impact of a failure, right? If you deploy something which does not work, you will see how it behaves and you can roll it back. But for that, we need to have good rollback mechanism as well. These are all risk mitigation techniques. Dark launch, also a technique that is helping us to get feedback, early feedback. So this is shift right. We deploy into production as quick as possible to get feedback as soon as possible. Now I told you there is more on the left. So this is the area where I think it's important to learn design thinking, to learn in the QA how to be more customer centric. And it's not enough to start with the requirements. As a tester, and now I'm also a service design, have lean service creation facilitator. That's a service design technique. It was an extremely good education. I really liked it. And it is giving you a lot of knowledge, how you focus on the customer needs, how you focus on how to design good things for the customer. And it, as said, not starts with the requirements. It starts with the flow. It starts with easiness. It starts with understandable. A lot of soft things are on there. Design thinking, when you first figure out or identify the problem worth to solve, and then you look into the possible solution spaces and select the one solution at the end that is best solving this problem. Also, when we go deeper in here, it's very good to learn about personas, learn how to utilize empathy maps to understand your customer, learn how to work with customer journey maps. So work with your service designers as a tester, because the customer journey map might be your highest business process to test against. This might be the highest level flow that you want to test and want to make sure it works. Now, from these journeys, you can utilize, and with the product owner, the user story mapping techniques to actually capture the right user stories. And again, here, I'm talking about testing on the very left, already discussing with the product owner and challenging them when they do the user story mapping, understanding how it works, and making sure that negative scenarios are there, and asking the question, what if not? Now, when you have the user stories, then you go a layer down with BDD, behavior-driven development, and acceptance-driven development, and make sure that you have common understanding on the requirements. And I said I will connect the keyword-driven testing with this one, right? We know it's easy to create given when then sentences and then use them as acceptance tests, implementing them in, for example, robot framework in a keyword-driven frame. So there are connections. Now we discussed about testing need to give feedback. So it's very important, and we need to explore as well, experiment. Prototypes is one technique, and design thinking and service design gives you a lot of tools on prototyping as well. You don't need to have code. For a good user interface, it's really enough to have a whiteboard with all those user interface elements, and think about how you would go through your customer journey. But of course, this could be digitalized, and very quickly this can create you the framework as well for testing, keywords for testing. So you can click on these elements even without having any underlying code. Design systems are helping you with this. So there's a lot on the left to learn. And one very good book is from Gaspar Nagy, a friend of mine from Hungary. And they wrote already 2 books with Sebros on BDD, discovery, and formulation. Very, not big books, but very good to the point and helps us testers how to understand BDD. Now, finally, let's go into the right. What does it mean QA in live? So first of all, we need to make sure that as part of quality assurance, we have telemetry in place. What could go wrong in live? Quite a lot of things. How do we know? Because we measure. We have different metrics and we are capturing that, and we have live information about the system. Many times, again, the cloud is giving you a lot of these on the infrastructure, on the virtual machine or the container layer, but you also need to develop into your application the telemetry capability. What happens? How, for example, how quickly a user can pay, how frequently the users turned back before paying. Do we understand why? Was something not understandable or not usable? Or is it just using, too much of the resources? So many things we can build in. By the way, when we have a business hypothesis of a feature, it is saying, what will be the end result of this feature? Why do we do this feature? We are expecting something, right? Now, how do you know that that hypothesis have been achieved? Because you measure something. It might be the telemetry which is helping you there. Also here, as we discussed about automatic rollback, which needs to be created. So if there is any problem in production, you can roll back to the previous version, to the previous stable version. Think of this. This is a risk mitigation. You are reducing the impact of a failure. You are not reducing the probability of delivering the failure with this action, but the impact. And this is, again, testing QA mindset. So make sure that this is there. Observability comes together with telemetry. And actually, that's what I mentioned as a new non-functional characteristic, or non-functional, but of course, there has a lot of functions there. A/B testing. Now, A/B testing is very close with service design and with service design and design thinking. I told you in design thinking, first you identify the problem worth to solve, and then you identify different solutions for that. Here, you deploy solution A and you deploy solution B to other people. And then you measure how they behave, how and which A or B is solving the problem better, right? So you are not making the decision upfront how it will be solved. You are making the decision by measuring it in production. A/B testing is a testing of your business ideas and which solution you take. Again, good to understand. And of course, how you build this into your pipeline. It's a big technical area as well. There are tools for that. And last but not least, let's go out and listen to how people shout, how our end users shout, what they say about our product. Go to social media, check the stars in the App Store, and see the feedback, read the feedback. Put a big monitor, a big dashboard in your development room, and make sure that everybody is seeing in real time the feedback, especially the negative ones, right? This is also a good source of information about the quality of our product. So as a QA, these are the areas that you need to go. And as a QA, also you need to see how actually to close the infinity loop. You remember we had the DevOps infinity loop. So actually after deployment and monitoring, you want to learn about business and you want to come up with the new idea. So we connect business hypothesis with measurement. You have seen that. So it's the observability. You also, it's good to learn the lean startup thinking, which means that you implement new features. I mean the company. This is also business. You implement new features until they make sense. And after a point, maybe in an area, there is no point anymore to make the interface shinier. There is no point to add more filters. There is no point to add something. So then you pivot. You go to something else. That's lean startup thinking. And when we talk about that, it's good to understand what is minimum viable product, meaning that what's the minimum set of features that can be delivered as a product. And there's a saying that if you were not ashamed of your first software version, then you probably deployed it too late. You waited too long. Now, of course, when we are in mission critical area or we might injure people, this is much farther. You need much more before deploying. But think of that. And innovation accounting, it's also just a way that not always looking into profit for to measure your success, but to, for example, look how many subscribers you have, how many new clicks you have. So something else. This is really, we are now really going into how business is measured. So as a QA lead in DevOps or a QA in DevOps, I suppose it's good that you understand every aspect and you learn these as you go on and as you grow in your profession. Yes, just the safe slide, which I wanted to show here, that how safe is talking about continuous learning and continuous, actually the DevOps cycle. And it is very nicely connecting the learning and to creating new business hypotheses with the agile product management based on these value metrics, what I mentioned. So for example, the innovation accounting is a value metric. So again, we are connecting the planning and we make the infinite circle. Now with this one, I would like to go back to another question. So after the presentation, what do you think? What will be the area that you will learn? What are the areas that you will focus on? I keep the code here. Please give me your feedback and then let's see our takeaway. So I believe quality assurance has a very strong role in DevOps, and you and we can contribute a lot to all the three ways in DevOps. Of course, we need to learn a lot of new technology, but also a lot of new different methodologies. As said, I believe that you need to understand the underlying thinking and theory as well. Remember, it's not only continuous testing. There's a lot more to the left. There's a lot more also to the right. And of course, testing is never, ever boring, especially if you can run bug hunting events, and especially in DevOps. So join me to learn more. Join me to challenge yourself, and join me to go to the left and go to the right and see how beautiful quality assurance can be in DevOps. So what will you learn tomorrow? Let me see. Is there any feedback yet? Something might be wrong. Okay, a bit of things coming up already. Thank you. Amplifying feedback and design thinking. Design thinking, if you go to the SAFe framework, Scaled Agile, there's a lot of good points in there. There's a lot of good freely available architects. But of course, if you just search for design thinking, you will find a lot. Keyword-driven testing. Yes, look into robot framework and then look into other keyword-driven technologies. Observability. I found the definition now, for that even, and you can search for that and it helps a lot. Experimenting, I like that. Amplify feedback, design thinking, cloud, CI/CD, cryptography. We did not mention that, but very good to think about that area as well. Experiment automation. Okay. Chaos engineering, I like that. Also, Amazon Web Services has its own chaos engineering platform now, so you can utilize that. And there's the Simian army, as I mentioned. So if you search for these things, you will find a lot. And Ansible, yes, Ansible for deployment and deployment automation, very good areas. Thank you very much. So I think with that we can conclude, and we have a few minutes for question and answers. Connect me on LinkedIn, and then have fun in your journey on quality assurance. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Szilard. At this moment, there are no questions in the Q&A yet, but there is a small delay between presenting and the actual reception upon the attendees. So we're going to wait a little longer to see if any questions might pop up.
Everything was clear. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I think that's the main conclusion here. I think with all the testers shifting left and shifting right, maybe the next step will be to shift up and take over the company.
Oh yeah, they say that nowadays anyway it's better that engineers are in the CTO role and the CIO role and not the MBA.
Yeah.
So it's not about profit, it's about what you build. But maybe soon the service designers will be there, because actually it's about your client.
Yeah. Okay, we have a first question from Stanislav. Is this shift left and right only responsibility of Q&A?
Absolutely not. And remember that it's not the testers who are magically testing quality into the product. It is everybody. It's built-in quality. As a QA, you can actually share these views and be kind of an ambassador of quality. Speak up and bring everybody on these. Ask questions and challenge people. Sorry, not challenge people, challenge topics. It's never about people. It's about always the problem. Challenge the problems.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any new questions popping up. So as Szilard proposed, you can always join him on LinkedIn and have lots of discussions with him there. I've understood that he's speaking at a lot of other conferences. So in between his sessions, he will have some spare time to answer your questions.
I very much hope so. Okay.
Yes, there's one more question coming here from Marta. Keyword-driven testing with robot framework should focus on end-to-end test, system test, in between brackets, or could used as well for integration testing?
I very much believe that this. So it depends that what is your underlying layer behind robot framework. So of course you can have a lot of simulation there. You can simulate interfaces. You can focus your testing only on few components, only on few microservices as well. So I wouldn't say that keyword driven is only for end to end, but when you use behavior driven development to identify your scenarios, and that you translate to keyword driven and robot, that will be more end to end focused. But of course, robot can be used very deep and very low level as well.
Okay. There's another question from Enrico. How can we cope with long-running tests in the pipeline?
Well, Enrico, good to see you. It's first of all, try to avoid them. Typically, what test automation says that you don't automate your manual testing. You try to create different test cases when you automate them, much more and shorter cases. But of course, sometimes you need to do that, and maybe you run some of those cases statistically only. So not all of those all the time, but for, in one execution, only 1/3, the next execution, the next third. You need to come up with an idea how to shrink your overall time to market, right?
Well, I like the idea of not automating your manual tests. I never heard that one before, but I really like that concept.
You design for automation. That's design for automation. That's like a bit different.
I think that's, for me, a good lesson to learn as well. Well, we're out of time for this session. So we're going to close this session, and we'll see each other again in one of the next sessions.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all attendees for attending this presentation.
Thank you, Wim, for being my host.
You're welcome. See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.